Hello. I thought I'd do a quick follow-up on this pendulum circuit that I had put together. A couple of things I'd like to point out that I missed the last time. First of all, this little battery I put together down here, I call that a bottle cap. That's a cap off of a 1-inch copper pipe, and it works very well. I bought 3 of them so I could experiment around with them. Pretty neat. And down here, this little coil is very small, probably about the size of a nickel, maybe a quarter. Anyway, it's fastened down with a piece of double back tape. Otherwise it sure wouldn't stay there. It'd go flying out of there. And another thing that was pretty tricky to do here, if I can grab a hold of this thing, was fasten this magnet assembly here onto the thread itself, the nylon thread. So what I did is I took these are all neodymium magnets, by the way. I took one that's a ½ inch diameter and has a 1/4 inch hole in the center, and it's 1/4 inch thick. And I cut a small piece of dowel, and the dowel fits in there very tightly. And I drilled a small hole in it, and that's how I fastened it to the thread. It worked out very nicely. And I just stuck a couple more flat magnets on the bottom. One thing else you need to know about this is when you first start this up, it almost wants to take off right away. When you first start this up, you want to set the magnet right on the coil and set it off to one side a little bit like that. And when you apply power to it, it should pull it to the center. If it kicks it off of there, it's wrong. You have to reverse your magnets. They tell me in the instructions that that'll weaken the magnets if you don't do it that way. So you want it to, when you put power on, pull towards the center, not the other. Another thing I want to talk to you about a little bit is I showed you that other battery that I was using distilled water on. I believe I was calling it sterilized water, but it is distilled water. I'll show you what that consists of quickly here. This is a 1.5 inch piece of copper pipe that I soldered a piece of number 10 copper wire onto, and I have filled this little prescription bottle full of distilled water. That's all it is. There's no chemical or anything in it. And here, my magnesium I ordered, my magnesium ribbon, I cut a piece and hooked it onto one side of the meter, and the other side of the meter obviously is hooked to the copper pipe. Now when I put that in there, you'll see the meter. Now, let me take it back out a second. I'm having trouble seeing that. You'll see it take off. It's running right up. Let me move this over. Oh, I see what it is. That plastic jug is reflecting into it. Anyway, that's just distilled water. There's no kind of chemical in there at all, and you can see we got almost 1.6 volts, 1.57. That really works good. And then when you use the distilled water, the magnesium strip itself here lasts much longer. I had the one in there for over 2 weeks. I was running the pendulum, and it was deteriorated pretty bad, but it was still working. This is the new one I just put in. Okay, and I think that's pretty much it. Double check here. We did the coil and the magnet positioning, distilled water, copper cap. Yeah, that's it. Okay, thanks very much for watching.